This focus on January 6th, it also brings up questions about priorities, doesn't it? Which leads us to Congressman Jamie Raskin. His, let's say, fixation on the growing criminal records of J6 protesters, it seems incredibly misdirected to me.
We'll also get the chance with the new select subcommittee to examine the constantly growing criminal records of all of the violent felons and cop beaters and white nationalists who Donald Trump pardoned.
He paints them all as white nationalists, dangerous radicals. Look, I think many were nonviolent people caught up in something, now facing charges that seem way over the top.
Nonviolent patriots? Some stormed the Capitol.
Okay, fine, not all were nonviolent, but the broad brush is misleading. And this intense focus, it stands in really stark contrast to his, and frankly, much of the left's relative silence on the brutal murder of Irina Zarutska in Charlotte. Here you have a refugee, killed by someone, Daquan Brown, who was a documented career criminal, released repeatedly under these progressive bail policies. That seems like a direct consequence, a tragic one. So Raskin pushing this narrative about J6 protesters being the main threat, it feels like a tactic, a way to divert attention from the real epidemic of violent crime and recidivism plaguing cities with these lenient policies. Look at the stats. Reoffense rates are alarming, like 40% for violent offenders within 3 years in some places. This prioritization chasing J6 protesters while seemingly downplaying horrific crimes like Zarutska's murder, it feels like a grotesque betrayal of public safety. No wonder the Democrats' approval ratings are struggling.
Okay, I understand the impulse to connect these things, but I really don't see Jamie Raskin's focus as a deflection at all. I see it as a vital call to address a very specific, very real, and growing threat: far-right radicalization and political violence in this country. His concern about growing criminal records isn't pulled out of thin air. Many J6 participants have faced subsequent charges for threats, for extremist activities, often linked to groups like the Three Percenters. This isn't just Raskin saying it. Homeland Security, the Southern Poverty Law Center, they've all documented a serious rise in domestic terror plots, many tied directly to these ideologies. Now, the Zarutska murder is horrific, absolutely. And yes, Brown's prior arrests point to massive failures likely in mental health intervention, in the rehabilitation system, failures that need bipartisan action, not race-baiting narratives. But the nature of the threat is different. Brown's terrible actions represent, perhaps, individual and local system failures. Raskin is addressing a national security concern that the FBI itself calls the top domestic terror threat: white supremacist extremism. Conflating these two things, suggesting focusing on one means ignoring the other, it just muddies the water. Raskin's work is about tackling a systemic ideological threat. That's fundamentally different from addressing individual violent crimes, which, however devastating, often have different root causes and need different solutions. It's not about prioritizing one over the other in terms of tragedy. It's about recognizing different types of problems.
Well, it's definitely been a week that throws these huge challenges we're facing into sharp relief, doesn't it? Across law, politics, society. From my side, these events really highlight an executive branch under what feels like unprecedented attack, a justice system really struggling with whether its policies are actually working, and a political climate where, honestly, distorting reality seems like standard practice for one side. It just reinforces for me the absolute need for strong leadership and protecting our constitutional principles.